These videos were super helpful when I was making my plans for the John Muir Trail, so I thought I'd make another one to help maybe somebody else along. So right now I'm talking to you. I'm about a half mile above Guitar Lake. I started out in Tuolumne Meadows 18 days ago, and so I'm going to be summiting Whitney in the morning, and then I'll be out of Whitney Portal and done in the early afternoon tomorrow. So it's been an exciting 18 days. To go over the main gear that I brought, I thought the main items, the first one being the pack. So the pack that I brought, this is an REI 80-liter backpack. It's frankly overkill, but I've had this pack for years, so I thought I would just bring it instead of buying a new one, and it's worked out really great for me, so I've been happy with that. For the tent, this is a Tensegrity Sierra Designs tent. It uses trekking poles as one of the main kind of stays for it, so it cuts down on weight. I think sum total, it weighs about 1.5 pounds, and I've been super happy with that tent. It's been great as a one-person tent. For a sleeping pad, I brought a Thermarest. I've had this for years. I've been super happy with it. I know some people like inflatable mattresses and all that stuff, but this has always worked well for me, so this is what I brought, and it worked out really, really well. Because you could also throw this on the ground and just kind of take a nap or sit on it during the day, so I thought this was perfect. For a sleeping bag, I brought a 20-degree sleeping bag. There was a whole lot of snow in the Sierras this last winter, and so a lot of the creek crossings were pretty rough, and I was worried that about getting wet, and so I decided to pack my sleeping bag into a dry bag that I had. This is just kind of an added security that in case my bag fell in the water, I wouldn't have a soaking sleeping bag to kind of have to deal with. So I was really happy with that. The other thing the main thing I brought, clothing-wise, so I'm wearing what I generally would hike in. So these are just some convertible hiking shorts. I have the zip-on leggings. I didn't use them very often, but there was one day where I was hiking on some snow, and I think some of the glare gave me a pretty bad sunburn on my legs, so it was nice to have them to kind of cover my legs for a few days as they healed up. So that was actually really nice to have those. I have a quick-drying shirt that I would hike in. I brought a puffy. This is kind of a puffy jacket that I only really would use at camp. It was hot during most of the day. I brought a beanie, a pair of sunglasses. What else did I got? I brought a pair of gloves that I'm going to use tomorrow to summit Whitney. I brought a flannel shirt. I know people say it's a cardinal sin to bring cotton into the backcountry, but I use this to kind of sleep in, and it worked out really well for me. I brought 2 pairs of quick drying underwear, and those have worked out wonderfully. And I've also brought a pair of kind of long john underwears. For shoes, I brought, I can take it off, but a Solomon hiking boot, and this boot has worked out really well. So I have no complaints about this whatsoever. I also bought a set of these Superfeet insoles that have nice arch support and kind of give you a little bit more cushioning in the foot. And these worked out really, really well. I didn't have any problems with my feet. There wasn't a day that I was sore or with bad blisters at all. For my socks, what I did was I brought 2 pairs of wool hiking socks, both with liners. And I had a 3rd pair of hiking socks just to sleep in. But some of the days got so wet that I actually ended up rotating through all 3 pairs, which was pretty helpful. For my water system, what I brought was I have 2 water bottles. So one is a 1.5 liters, and the other is 700 milliliters. These are both Smart Water bottles, and the reason that these are really good is because the threading on these bottles mates with the Sawyer Mini. And so this is a squeeze filter. So what it does is I can fill this up with water I collect out of the pond that might have some bacteria in it that I don't want to drink. This will screw on to it, and then what you can do is you can just squeeze the water through it. And so this is now clean drinking water. And so what I would do is I'd fill this bottle up with water, and then I'd use that to pour into here, which then I would drink out of. So this would keep all the clean water. And there was so much water in the Sierras that just this was enough for me to get by, and it worked out really well. The other trick, if you end up using this, is the 700 milliliter bottles here come with these caps. They're kind of, you know, just your normal athletic cap, but there can be times where the Sawyer Mini gets clogged, and what you have to do is you have to fill this with clean water, and then you can mate this to the end of the filter here and squeeze it through and back flush the whole system. And that's just a way to kind of help keep everything clean and working pretty well. But so that's been helpful. I haven't had to use it, frankly. I think there's been so much water and it's been so clean that it hasn't really mucked up the filter. For food, so you have to bring a bear can into the backcountry here. I'm sitting on mine. This is a Bear Vault 500. I could fit about 7 days worth of food in here, which worked out pretty well. On the trail, so I was on trail for 18 days and I had 2 resupplies. So I started in Tuolumne Meadows. I had a resupply at VVR, and I had a friend hike over from over Bishop Pass into LeConte Canyon to bring me some food. And so there was about 6-7 days in between those sections. And so I was able to fit everything into this bear can, which worked out really well. The main way that I cooked meals at night was I'd repackage all my meals into Ziploc freezer bags. And the idea that I used was I had a jet boil, and so this jet boil system just worked great. I'd boil water in this, I'd pour it into the Ziploc bag with the food, and then I would put the Ziploc bag into this foiled pouch. And so this foiled pouch just helps it retain the heat, and so I could just put the food in there, cover it, and let it sit, and it would cook by itself. And that helped me cut down on fuel. So it took me about, just to give you some sense of it, it took me about 2 weeks to go through one of these smaller canisters here. I think this whole system was pretty efficient. But it'll depend on kind of what you're cooking and how much water you boil. But again, the jet boil worked great. I had a spork as my main utensil. I also brought a mug. Frankly, I only really drank coffee out of this in the mornings, and I could have gotten by without it, but it was nice to use it anyways. I brought a standard kind of med kit that just had a moleskin and antibiotics and some of the other important stuff you need, or like Band-Aids and things like that were really helpful. And then I also brought a kit, just a toiletry kit of, this has got sunblock, toothbrush, toothpaste. I had an emergency blanket, one of those in case I got really wet or cold. I had a repair kit in here of duct tape and some other things like that, tweezers and safety pins, and also an extra set of batteries and like Advil and things like that. What else? So for electronics, I ended up bringing a Kindle. So I went out solo on this trip, so this was really helpful to kind of sit and be able to read at night, which is really nice. I also brought a large battery to charge all my electronics. So you're looking at me through a camera that I brought. So I brought an RX100 Mark II, and that worked really well. It's it's a small, really great camera. It's much more compact than a DSLR and things like that. So I had a battery pack and then the cables for it. I also had a small GoPro that I attached to my pack to record some videos that worked out really well, and I was super happy about. And I also brought my iPhone. It's a lot of electronics. It was more than I expected to bring, but I was happy with what I brought. Of course, you want to bring a headlamp. And I had, the standard rain. I had a rain jacket and a pack cover, both which worked out pretty well. We only really got storms these last 2 days, which is why the sky's all blacked out, or you can't really see the blue sky behind me. For navigation, I brought a set of maps, a compass, which I actually didn't end up needing to use, and then I had a GPS app on my phone. So there's a JMT app in the Apple store that I thought was wonderful, almost too good. But with that, you're kind of able to navigate. The other thing that I brought was a GPS transponder here. This worked out really well. I think it would be kind of foolish to go into the backcountry without one of these devices. They don't cost a whole lot and they're pretty lightweight, so this was really helpful to kind of let people know where I was and that I was safe. So I was super happy with this. Some of the other things that I brought were, I brought micro spikes, but I didn't end up actually using them. And what else? I think I brought some paracord just to dry some clothes that I used a few times, and that was nice. But all in all, oh, and I also brought a pair of just kind of generic flip-flops for camp shoes, which worked out very well. But in general, you know, all this kept me pretty happy and comfortable in the backcountry. And so, you know, if you're thinking or wondering about what else you need, this is what I brought and was super successful for me. So good luck on your trip.